All right, Tori, here are the two pieces of Moldavite and two Herkimers that Miss Sandra is going to use to make your pendants. And what we're going to do today is take a look at them underneath the microscope, and then we'll do some specific gravity measurements, and then we'll compare them to some other known Moldavite from the same splay field. Okay, so let's take a scope here, and it's going to project up onto the screen here. So as I get it under the scope, you can see it projecting up on the screen. I'm going to change the light intensity a little bit, get it in focus. So there we go. That is the surface of your Moldavite. I'm going to snap a picture right here, and it's going to save it up there as picture one. I'm going to go back to live mode, just show you what I'm doing. Okay, so that's the surface of the Moldavite. However, what we really want to do is we want to see deep inside the Moldavite, and the surface texture prevents us from doing that. So the best thing we could do is to take and polish this Moldavite. However, Miss Sandra would not let me do that. But the next thing we could do, best thing to do, is take some refractive index fluid that has a refractive index that matches the refractive index of the Moldavite. And what that does is it washes the surface texture out of the Moldavite so we can see into the Moldavite. Look at that. Okay, so now we can get beyond this surface and we can see the bubbles inside the Moldavite. And actually, I can actually focus down and get into the Moldavite a little bit. And what you're seeing now in the Moldavite is all these stress lines. And that occurred when the Moldavite was freezing after impact. So it was molten in the sky, and then it started to freeze. And when it did, it created these stress lines inside the Moldavite. You see bubbles throughout the. So as I'm focusing here, I'm focusing at different depths into the Moldavite, and you can see that the bubbles become a little sharper and crisper. There's a piece of dust floating across the Moldavite. That's from the fluid I put on here. So, oh, and up here in the corner, you see that? That's what Miss Sandra calls the wigglies. And actually, it's an inclusion, and those are near impossible to fake. No one really can fake the stress lines or the inclusions in Moldavite. So it's really, really exciting. So here's some more wigglies, as Miss Sandra calls them, more inclusions. Let me move this a little bit. I gotta turn the light down a little. And we can look at some other areas. There's another bubble right here. I'm gonna focus in on it. So you see, as I focus down deeper, you can actually, oh, these bubbles show up. So you can focus up onto the surface or down deeper into the Moldavite. So let me move it some more. I'm going to actually push the Moldavite out a little bit so I get another area to look at. Here we go. Got to turn the light up a little bit. Some more bubbles to go look at. Let's find out where they are. So I'm focused in a little bit on those bubbles. Again, there's a little bit of debris here. That's really just the solution. But here we go. These are the bubbles inside the Moldavite. Then we got some more contamination, lots of stress lines. That's a really exciting piece. I'm sorry, I always forget to take pictures. So I'll grab a picture here. So I'm hitting this snap picture here, and it's putting it up here. So let's go and focus down a little deeper. Oops, gotta go back to live view. So that's live view right there. So we can focus. You can see I kind of came in and out of focus. So now I'm on the surface of the Moldavite, and that is deep inside the Moldavite. And as I focus down, I can focus on that bubble right there. Pretty neat. All right, let me move it around a little bit more. Find another area. Let's go back out to the surface. So I'm on the surface right there. So this is the surface of the Moldavite, washed out with that fluid, and then there's bubbles inside of it. This one's a little closer to the surface, that one's deeper. And as we go in and focus in, I just focused on that one. Hey, let me turn the light down. Because look at, we see all these inclusions in here? Again, what Miss Sandra calls the wigglies. Those are just characteristic of Moldavite. So when Moldavite froze, these contaminations froze in this worm-like structure. There's actually a German word for it. It'd be on your inspection sheet. So this is what we're inspecting for at the microscope: bubbles, flow lines, and these leptoterrorites. We'll fill this out as we get along here. But again, oops, I should snap a picture of that one. Snap. And let's focus in a little bit further. I want to see, oops, I gotta go back to live view. I want to focus in a little further. I want to get on that bubble right there. Let's see what was at this level. Lots of stress lines. This is really pretty neat to see, and that's these flow lines that we talked about right here, these stress lines. All right, so that is your one piece of Moldavite. I need to, I'll have to clean this off so that we can do some other analysis on it. And let me see if I can get, this is a really big piece. I'm not sure that I can get it in my clamp here. Let's try that. Okay, so here we go again. That is, let me turn this down a little bit. That is the surface of your Moldavite. And again, what we want to do is wash this texture out with the refractive index solution. And where am I missing that? There we go. Okay, so now we can see a little bit deeper into the Moldavite. So let's focus down on this one. On the other side of the surface there. Wow. A squiggly right here, an inclusion. Let's move this and see what other things we can see. Lots of bubbles, lots of bubbles. Trying to get over here. Let's look at this right here. Sorry, I'm still moving it. Let me move it back. All right, so let's focus down right here. Ooh, I just focus through that bubble right there. And there's a bubble deep inside over here. Let's see if I can get to that one. Huh, right there it is, see? And as I focus out, you can see there's the surface. And then as I focus in, it goes down into that bubble. Same thing with this one, it's at a different level. So you can see, and all of these down here as well. So I'm gonna, oops, there's the other surface. I'm bringing it in, and there we're focusing down into the Moldavite to catch those pieces. Well, let's move it just a little bit more, whoops. Sorry, moving it around a little bit here. There's some debris on the surface. So no matter what happens, so some of these little junk that you see floating here, that is that refractive index. That's junk in the refractive index. These bubbles here are what's we're looking for. So this one's out of focus, and let's just focus down in, oops, going the wrong way. Focus down inside of it. That's deep inside. Now that one's towards the surface. And there's some. So let's move it some more. Let me push it back this way. Turn that light down just a little bit. Sorry. This piece is an unusual shape, and that fluid is flowing all over the place. So let's see what we see here. No bubbles at that spot. We're looking at really small areas here. So the bubbles are pretty, oh, there's the surface. And here's bubbles inside of here, and there's a bubble down there. We're looking at really tiny areas here. And there's a wiggly right here. I can't get to it. It's right, it goes down this way and comes back up this way. I can't quite focus on it. Yeah, that's the wrong angle for me to get to, and if I move it, I'm gonna lose it, but, whoops. I'm making a mess of my microscope there. Okay, so, oops, one more picture. Look at that bubble right there. Wow, isn't that cool? So there's a bubble again, and or the debris that's going across here, but there's a bubble right there, and you can see the stress lines that are going through this thing, the opposite direction. Okay, so this is only part of what we do to confirm Moldavite. The other part is, so Tori, normally what we would first do is take a look at your Moldavite and look for the right color and the right texture. And this color really needs to be a medium to dark green. And the color and texture are different for the different splay fields. So when the meteorite impacted in Germany, the debris went towards Czechoslovakia and Austria. Excuse me. And at these different splay fields, the texture is a little different and the colors are a little different. And sometimes even within the splay field itself. But this is from, these pieces are from the southern Bohemia section of the Czech Republic at a mine called Chlum, or CHLUM. Anyway, what we do is we take some other Moldavite that we have from that mine and we just compare it. I like this piece. We compare it in color and texture. So these are your two pieces. And you can see it matches that mine's other textures and gloss. I can show you also what some fake Chinese Moldavite looks like. And I bought this off of the web. You can see it's more of a Heineken beer bottle color in this piece, but it has a lot of shine to it. Same thing with this one. This is a fake Moldavite. It has a lot of shine to it. You know, they've gotten a little bit better at faking Moldavite, but typically it doesn't have the right texture. It doesn't have the right color. Oh, by the way, you pull these up to the light, you can obviously see through them. But they don't have the right texture, the right color, and they're glossy. And what we want to do also is look at density or specific gravity. And what I can measure is hydrostatic specific gravity. So I have a pretty sophisticated analytical balance that can measure mass, and it can measure the mass of the volume. So when you think about density, it really, if you think about a balloon and a piece of lead. So if you had a balloon this big, and you had a piece of lead this big, the piece of lead would obviously be a lot denser and weigh more than a balloon of the same size. So that's what we're looking at when we talk about density and specific gravity. So we know that the density or specific gravity of Moldavite from the southern Bohemia splay field, is about 2.35. It ranges someplace between 2.27 and 2.46 based on what contaminants may be in there. But fake Moldavite is much higher than this. So all the fake Moldavite that I measured from China and other places on the internet were up to about 2.5, 2.6, and even higher. So the first thing we want to do is we want to measure and weigh the weight of the Moldavite. Let me get this in there right. And this piece of Moldavite is, we're going to call it Moldavite number 1, weighs 7.788 grams. This is the dry weight. Okay. And then the second piece of Moldavite, which is really a beautiful piece of Moldavite, it's very large. That piece weighs, let it settle down there. The Moldavite number 2 weighs 18.687 grams. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put the Moldavite on this tray and weigh it in distilled water. Your Moldavite's quite large, so it's kind of a trick getting it in this. So let me just make sure that it's not touching the edges. It's not. Okay, so The weight in water for dry Moldavite, for the first Moldavite, we're going to call it wet, is 4.440. All right, we'll take that one out. And we're going to weigh your other one in water. I'll dry that one up for you before I give it back to Miss Sandra. This one is quite large, so hopefully I can get it on the scale without it touching the edges of, there we go, is it floating? There we go. So this Moldavite, the second one, wet, is 10.759. Okay, so let's do the calculation. It's the dry weight divided by the dry weight minus the wet weight. So for the first one, it's 7.7. If you want to follow along, do this at home with me. You can do the calculation. 7.788 divided by 7.788 minus 4.40. And let's do that one real quick. So we'll do the bottom number first. 7.788 minus 4.440, which equals 3.348. 3.348. And so now we're going to clear that, 7.788 divided by 3.348. And that is going to equal 2.3, round that one up, 33. And we are right at the target density for Moldavite. That was your first piece. So let's do the calculation for the second piece. It's going to be 8.687 divided by 18.687 minus 10.759. This is where I lose Sandra. She's never interested in this, but it is what it is. 18.687 minus 10.759, this is an old calculator, is 7.928. Okay, so let's do 18.687 divided by 7.928, and that equals 2.3, and we'll round it up, 2.36, which also is right at the target. So there we go, Tori. I hope you have enjoyed the video. I'll take this one out in a moment. I know Miss Sanders says that I've taken too long to do it, but I will clean these up and give them back to her, and she will take them to Sedona and create you some wonderful pendants. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks.